Welcome, everybody. Welcome on the Master Shah Dow Centre Sydney Facebook and YouTube page. My name's Alexander, and it's a great pleasure and honour of mine today to be able to introduce you all to Dr. Rulin Shu. I know some of you around the world already know Dr. Rulin, but we're getting an opportunity today to connect face to face, ask a few questions, and have a bit of a conversation because Rulin's actually leading a workshop with us in next weekend, exploring the nature of your reality. So Dr. Rulin is I'm going to read a little. I'm going to read a little bit about Dr. Rulin, and I'm going to say a few things from my personal experience as well. So, Dr. Rulin is a string theorist, quantum physicist, and the co-founder of Tao Science. So, Tao Science is a science of grand unification, unifying science with spirituality at the most fundamental level. Tao Science is a science of grand unification, unifying science and spirituality. So this is the culmination of her work of more than 20 years on the grand unification theory. And for Rulin, that was like her dream as a child to be able to find the grand unification theory, which was also Einstein's dream and many others in the realm of quantum science. So a bit more about Rulin's background. Earned her doctorate from UC Berkeley in 1994 and completed her postdoctoral research at Harvard University's Lyman Laboratory of Physics and Houston's Advanced Research Center. She's published 2 books and has articles in journals such as Global Journal of Science Frontier Research, a Physics and Space Science, and International Journal of Cosmology, Astronomy, and Astrophysics. So there's a little bit of information on Rulin's background, but for me personally, I've had the opportunity to meet Rulin over the years, and I guess from my personal experience, what I love about Rulin and being around Rulin is she's a quantum physicist. Obviously very smart, very intellectual, but when you're hanging out with Rulin, she just likes to have fun. She's there's it's not what you might picture with like a scientist behind a computer crunching numbers. It's always just a joy being in Rulin's presence. And I think, Rulin, that you've shared in the past that sometimes some of those more dry mathematical elements of science can bore you a little bit. Is that right? Sometimes you actually really just want to get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, I love doing math. I love to think about the profound questions in physics. So that is something I love doing. But also I love with people. I love with people. I love nature. So sometimes I'm a little bit resentful. Like being in the science keep me away from people or away from having fun in nature. But now I find I can really do all of that with Tao Science. I can be with a lot of people and also enjoying the nature and also enjoying some very high level spiritual state. And as also I find that in nature, being with people, and also in a very high level spiritual state, and actually can help me to do the science better. So I'm very happy now I can combine all together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that, Rulin, because it's interesting. Like, I think traditionally people think, oh, like I'm spiritual, or maybe I'm religious, or other people think I believe in science, and sometimes those two things, people see them at opposite ends of the spectrum. So how is it that you bring that together with Tao Science, and why is that so significant?
Yeah, actually, when I grew up, when I started to do science, I don't know much about the spirituality, and but I was working on how to understand quantum physics, to find that foundation, and how to interpret quantum physics. And so when I was working on that, when I was in the college, actually, I'm working on the physics almost 40 years. It's not 20 years, almost 40 years. And so when I'm working on the foundation of the quantum physics and metaphysical understanding of the quantum physics, I realized I do need to understand what is consciousness and how this world what is this world is really about? The
Mm.
reality is how the reality is created. So, but then, at that time, I only work on the science. So I work really hard, and I still cannot understand that fundamental problem, question. So that is also a question that has not been really solved by the physicist. And
Mm.
so, because for a long time I could not solve this problem, in fact, I gave up on physics. I moved to Hawaii and set up a factory and start to do business, and also enjoy swimming with dolphins and in Hawaii, and so lead a very different life. And then in Hawaii, I had my spiritual awakening, and I was be able to really connect with nature and really realized about the love. um, what is love, and what is and the love, and really enjoying the love, really,
Mm.
and of everything. And so that completely changed my life. And then I was able to study, to um, look into develop myself spiritually, swimming in the waterfalls, or really helped me to open up my third eye, and with dolphins really experience the bliss of life.
Mm.
And um, so that so that kind of opened the door for me to develop the spiritually. And so when I was and then at that time I stopped doing physics. And then when I was working on and then in Hawaii, I met Dr. and Master Zhigang Sha, which is co-founder of Dao Science. And so he's a world-renowned spiritual healer and a leader and a teacher and a master, healing master. So I was very fortunate to be able to get his blessings, wisdoms, and study from him. And so that is so when I was doing the spirituality, to develop myself in a spiritual path, actually the science just suddenly had so much aha moment in the science. And almost without effort, I was starting to have making some progress. The things I could not understand before, suddenly the answer just come to me. So that is how it's kind of happened naturally. Yeah.
Mm. Well, that's amazing. Amazing to think that you actually had to step away from the traditional path and, explore, yeah, like your spirituality and that connection with life. And I think about Einstein at the end of his life saying stuff like this. The true force in nature is love, and all that sort of stuff. Rulin, do you remember like a specific moment when you say that you had like an aha once you met Master Shah? You had an aha around connecting science and spirituality. Do you remember
Mhm.
a specific moment where you managed to join the dots with a scientific theory and a spiritual philosophy, for instance?
Yeah. So when I met Master Shah, he's doing the soul healing, the spiritual healing. So he creates so much miracles. So so I go to a lot of his workshops. So oftentimes I'm just sitting there and just suddenly sometimes just think about, how can I, um, explain the spiritual healings, scientifically, from the physics and the physics of the spiritual healing, right? And so, but I did not give too much thoughts. I just sometimes just wonder, right? And but did not really give much thoughts. But then in one of the workshop, Master Sha's workshop, I suddenly just suddenly I had this aha moment. I just suddenly become very clear. And the soul, I can truly see, I can calculate the soul with
Mm.
quantum physics.
Mm.
And in fact, the soul, the spirit, can be calculated in quantum physics, in principle. In
Right.
fact, the whole quantum physics, I suddenly realized the whole quantum physics is science about the spirit, about the soul.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
And so that's something that you've been able to do now, actually quantify
yes,
spiritually
yes.
the soul, which a lot of people obviously think is something quite intangible or, out there, or does the soul exist or not? But you've actually been able to prove that in a way with science.
Yes, yes. It's actually become very clear The soul can be studied scientifically. It can be described and calculated, measured, and also measured, studied, calculated mathematically. And I think in the future we will have the equipment to measure the soul.
Yeah, wow. So what, like, for the everyday viewer watching this right now, I mean, I imagine we're going to explore this more in the workshop next weekend, but like, what can we take from that right now when you say our soul can be measured? How can we start applying that? Is there something we can do sort of instantaneously to interact with our soul a bit more directly with this understanding?
Yeah, actually, every moment we are connecting with our soul. In fact, every moment we are being controlled. Our life is being actually determined by our soul. So it just people don't realize that, people don't see that, don't understand that how it happens. So that is
Mm.
what Tao science can help us to understand how the soul, our spirit, actually determines every aspect of our life. And I can show this, yeah, mathematically in Tao science.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So I can see we've got quite a few people online with us. So if anyone has any questions as we're talking throughout the conversation, pop them in the chat box. And if we have time at the end, we'll fire a few questions at Rulin from the audience as well. So so as I said, we're having a workshop with Rulin in Sydney. Well, she's joining us from Portland, but the Master Shah Dow Centre Sydney is holding it next weekend, the 23rd and the 24th. It's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. each of those days. So we'll get to dive deeper into some of these questions and understanding Dow science a little bit in a little bit deeper way, and exploring the nature of our reality. So anyway, Rulin, I have my own question now, actually, because I was watching you in the summit, the Tapping the Source summit with Deepak Chopra, Irvin Laszlo, Master Shah. It was a month or so ago, and you were explaining some of these tenets of Tao science, and then you started talking about the holographic principle, which I found really interesting. And I've heard this spoken about in other circles as well, that we're in a holographic universe, and everything is is a hologram in a sense. So it got me thinking. It's like, okay, so you sort of said that within Tao science, you've been able to mathematically show and calculate that everything that appears in our reality, and even concepts like quantum physics or string theory, are in fact um, really a hologram, and you can show that mathematically. So it made me think, a big part of the workshop next weekend is going to be, why are we here? What's the purpose of our life? How can Tao science help us understand that? And then I go, hold on a second, everything's a hologram. What's the point? How do we find meaning with that realization that really everything that appears to us, or that we come to understand as maybe truths, are in some way a hologram, or an illusion? Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Am I on the right track
So
with that?
yeah. So basically, actually, in Tao science, recently, actually, this is a paper I'm writing and also presented to many scientists at this moment. Is we show that our consciousness of space and time, and these two elements, they interact and actually form this hologram. And the quantum physics, general relativity, Newtonian physics, and also string theory and the thermodynamics, everything I can derive. I can literally show you mathematically. All of this is coming from this hologram, including the elementary particles, fundamental forces, all the fundamental forces, and also the space-time we observe, and everything, and dark matter, dark energy, and the black holes. And we can really show this hologram can describe everything. And so literally shows you that everything in our universe is projection from this hologram that is actually created by our own consciousness of space and time.
Mm.
So space and time in Tao science, there's different kinds of space and time, and one of the deepest level of a space and time is basically in Tao science, is basically our human consciousness. And so space is our consciousness of something is not moving. And time is our consciousness, something is moving. So these two consciousness, they form this hologram. And everything we know in this whole universe is projection out of that. So from this, so this is very, very interesting for the science itself, because we literally be able to derive one formula and show how everything's coming out of that, which is quite, to me, quite inspiring for me. That is my dream. It's just come up with one mathematic formula and show everything's coming from that.
Yeah. I think I answered my own question because, well, I think you answered my question indirectly because what I got from what you were saying there in a way is, I guess we're brought up in a world and a reality where we think what's real is what we can touch and feel and what's solid and, someone we can hug. But based on what you're sharing there, it seems that actually everything that appears to us and that we experience is actually based on our consciousness and a projection from the inside out.
Yes.
So my question around what is like everything being an illusion or a hologram, it's actually not so much the case. It's actually I think I've heard you say this as well before, we are the creators of our own reality in that sense, because it's actually all really coming from within us.
Exactly.
As opposed to the opposite. Wow.
Exactly. So this research really shows us how powerful each one of us are, and also shows us whatever outside is created by our own consciousness. So it's not something for us to get attached to, because a lot of people, they're so attached to their job, so attached to their house or whatever that is, but you can realize we create that, that almost like an illusion, right? And so this outside physical things, it's, of course they're precious, but it's not something to get attached to, because we can create more things from our own consciousness. So, but our true self, and to realize our true self is so powerful. And then to really get to know our true self, to connect with our true self, and then go to even higher level of manifestation, not be slaved by the current manifestation that we are dealing with.
Makes me think of that that Jesus quote: "Be in the world, but not of the world."
Yes,
Like,
yes.
it's quite profound. So, yeah, right. Okay, cool. Oh, it's already been very interesting. So I'm just I just heard you mention their true self. So again, like diving maybe a little bit deeper. We got a little bit more time, so diving a little bit deeper into that. What is the true self then? How, like, when you say start connecting to that true self? Obviously, I can understand from what you said before that's within us. It's not so much connected with what we attach ourselves to. Is a lot of the work that you do with Tao Science really about us understanding that true self? Like, how do we, and how would you explain that in a simple way?
Yeah, to realize that our true self is so powerful. Our true self creates everything. So everything, this whole universe, actually created by our true power. It's within our true self. It's coming from our true self. So that is how powerful everybody is. But we are even beyond, is even much bigger than this whole universe. And this universe is so big, like our Earth is a small part of the solar system. And solar system is tiny, tiny, tiny little sand in the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is little sand in the whole universe. And the whole universe is still expanding, right? And then also there's maybe other universes. But all of this is actually coming from our true self. So that is how great our true self is. And our true self contains all wisdoms, all powers, all information, energy, and matter. So when we able to connect with our true self, we can experience ultimate bliss, ultimate love, and ultimate abundance. So people are suffering because they are away from their true self, and they limit themselves, being the illusion by this kind of tiny things that in our life, and not realize we created ourselves and we should not be enslaved by them, and realize we have unlimited potential to create even more, or to enjoy, the true freedom and true abundance, true joy, and true love.
Wow, that's amazing. I was literally, my whole body started tingling as you were talking there. So it's always a good sign. I love your perspective, Rulin. Like when we've, like, I've heard perspectives that can sometimes be a little bit nihilistic around, oh, we're like a tiny speck of sand in an infinite universe, and therefore we don't matter, or sometimes and you sort of see, I can see it in a very day-to-day sense. Sometimes you look at people and it's like you see people almost in a limbo or lost in a world that they don't feel like they can make sense of, or almost given up. Like it feels like that consciousness is quite common, actually, and then those attachments and outside things become a lot more alluring because the deeper questions have kind of been set aside. But really, you're sort of turning it on your head here. It's like, yes, we are that little speck of sand, but
No, we're
actually
not
that's
this
only, but
little
we're
speck
not
of sand.
really. But we're
No,
not
we're
really.
not. Yeah, we're not. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's just an illusion.
that's the
Our
illusion.
true self actually permits beyond this universe. We are a quantum field, and actually contains infinite information, energy, and matter. So we appear to be small, but we're not really. We're not really is.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
I
only
love
our
it.
own thinking to make ourselves appear small, and we can change that, and or just connect with our true self, which is beyond everything.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I hope everyone can feel the power of what Rulin's sharing. So I'm going to have a look. We did have a few questions come in. I think some of them have already been kind of answered as we've gone. I've seen a few questions, Rulin, about people asking about like the third dimension, and is this projection hologram only relating to the third dimension, space and time, or is it beyond that? I'm not sure if you can cover that now, but I know that,
Yes,
obviously
yeah,
a lot of people
yeah,
talk about different dimensions and
yeah. I'd be happy to talk about it. Yeah, so so this hologram, at least from our formula we derived, and this hologram can project into physical space and time in any dimension. So it could be to 10 dimension. Actually, that string theory think, it should be we should be living in a 10 dimension, and but in the hologram formulation, we can see it can be any dimension. But then we also derived and show that at the if you measure the space and time at a little bit longer distance, then there's a certain condensation because of gravity, and then certain space and time become curled up, so you won't be able to see it, and you end up only see 4 dimension, including time. So this we can actually,
sorry,
that's
Rulin,
one thing about.
we
Mhm.
actually lost you there for about a few seconds when you were explaining that. Maybe you can just explain that last. You're starting to talk about condensing, like with gravity, and then we lost you for about 5 seconds.
Yeah. So basically, so we can literally, actually, that's the amazing thing in Dow science, in our research, the formula we derive. A lot of people, they talk about hologram, but it's just from their idea. We actually derive it mathematically, and from the so we can derive it both from physics point of view or from spiritual wisdom point of view. So we published paper from both sides. And we can literally derive this formula. And also we did some study, and it shows that, so if you study the phenomena at a little bit larger space and time scale, right? At a very, very small, if you look at the phenomena at a very small space and time scale, then it can be in the higher dimensions. But then it's the measurement, if you look at the phenomena at a little bit higher, bigger time, space and time scale, we find that the gravity and could curl up some additional space and times, and so that you only see four-dimensional space and time. So this is one of our mathematical derivation, and we can literally explain why right now we only see four-dimension in our universe, why our universe appears to be four-dimensional, and also and why, and actually our universe appears to be flat. And so this actually can coming from our mathematical formula, we can derive this. That is,
Wow.
yeah, that is one thing very great.
Yeah, that's quite deep, but I think I got it. So if you're looking really, really close, then everything sort of appears as though it exists along, like, infinite dimensions or many, many dimensions. But when we expand that across a bigger space and time line, or equation, which obviously is like our life, that we exist in like a linear birth old time, then we start to see how those many dimensions can actually appear within a 3 or 4th dimensional reality.
Yeah, the high dimensions are curled up and you cannot see them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So are they still interacting? We're still interacting with them in some way, even though we're not really
you can
aware
still,
of them?
definitely they still affect us, but but you just we cannot see them.
Right. Wow, very interesting.
Yeah,
I've never heard
actually,
it
I'm trying to
explained like that.
derive the formula and to show that the higher dimension, they determines what particles we observe, what forces we observe in the four dimensions. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got on quite a deep scientific, spiritual, quantum conversation here. So really, I'm just thinking maybe, we've got a few more minutes. Maybe we can bring it back to the workshop next weekend, which, I know a lot of people are really excited about seeing that in the chat. Maybe you can just give people from, a few basic things that they might expect to get out of this weekend. We've talked about that element of, finding purpose in life. And you've talked today about really understanding that where that, that infinite creator and that our reality comes from within. So what would you say to people coming into next weekend that, that they could expect to get out of it?
Yeah, I think, if people want to know who you really are and why you're so powerful, why you are bigger than this universe, and if you really also want to be free, to have a high ultimate freedom, and if you want to change your reality, change your life, to have greater freedom, love, joy, abundance in your life. And also find a greater purpose, meaning in your life. And also maybe some of you are looking for ultimate enlightenment. So I welcome you to come to this workshop. So Tao science brings the science and spirituality together. When science and spirituality coming together, it has become so powerful. And that can really take you and take all of us and humanity to a higher level of way of living. And right now, many of us, many people are facing difficulties and challenges because we need to know higher wisdoms. And with this higher wisdom, we can be empowered to save humanity, save our environment, to also live a life we all deserve, and to live our true life. So
Beautiful. I feel that in my heart. That's what we need, isn't it? really turn the world around right now, and us as individuals, being that force for change is understanding that higher wisdom, so we're not stuck in the world as it appears, the illusion. Amazing. Thank you so much, Rulin. It's been such an honor to have this time with you and to dive deep into a few of the questions that we've had, and great to have everybody online with us. Really looking forward to next weekend. So have a look in the comments. The link is down there. And as I said, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. next Saturday and Sunday, the 23rd and 24th of September. So it's just 4 hours each day that we'll get the chance to connect with Rulin, who will be joining us from Portland. But we'll all be together in a Zoom room. So there'll be two-way interaction, and we'll get to really start to understand some of this Tao science and really applying that to our lives on a deeper level. So thank you again, Rulin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to it and looking forward to see you there. Love you. Bye.
Love you, everybody. Goodbye. Enjoy your day.
Mm-hmm.